If you're happy with the same old ways of dating,
If you enjoy sucking at communication,
and you have no desire to improve your romantic life, then our podcast might not be for you.
but if you want some out-of-the-box ideas to deepen your current relationships,
broaden your sexual horizons,
develop a better understanding of yourself,
or learn more about non-monogamy,
Then you've come to the right place. I'm Jase,
I'm Emily.
and I'm Dedeker.
and this is the Multiamory podcast.
Forcing me to form myself to fit.
On this episode of the Multiamory podcast, we are talking with writer, director, and producer Jackie Stone of the web series Compersion, which is an awesome web series about polyamory. With her, we're going to be talking about bringing realism to telling stories about polyamory and not just showing everything going great. And we're also going to talk about race and diversity in the poly community and what are things that we can do as a community to try to encourage diversity and openness and inclusivity in a group that really should be doing that already.
I'm excited.
You know what else I'm really excited about?
What are you excited about?
Multiamory West Coast Tour 2017!
All right, this has been a dream of ours for a long time, guys, and it's actually going to happen. So starting on February 7th,
Which is the release of Dedeker Winston's newest book. It's not a novel, and I
Newest-
almost said it was a novel.
yes,
It's not a novel, but it
Dedeker's-
might be just about as long as one.
Dedeker's book, The Smart Girl's Guide to Polyamory, comes out on February 7th, and that is when we are launching our tour. It's going to last a couple weeks, and it'll be in the West Coast of the United States. We will be recording live podcast episodes, as well as hosting other events and stuff like that. So we're coming for you in San Diego,
Los Angeles,
San Francisco,
Berkeley,
Portland.
and Seattle.
yes. So excited. Keep your eyes on our social media to hear updates about this for the exact dates in your city, for ticket sales, more information. We will also be telling you more about it on this show in the future.
Yes.
But check that out. We are so excited to see you there.
This is just a little teaser. We're teasing you.
Yes, we're teasing. This is the first teaser.
Tease.
Tease.
And now, on to Jackie.
And here we are with Ms. Jackie Stone, the writer, director, producer, the everythinger of the web series Compersion, which is part of Enchant TV on YouTube.
Yes.
So you can go check it out for free. It's awesome. We highly recommend it. And we'll put links in the show description where you can go right to that and check it out. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So
Thanks
pleased to
for
have
being
you
here. Yeah. So we have a ton of stuff that we want to cover. We were just talking for a little bit before this started. And I guess just could you, maybe you have practice more than we do, but could you give us like the 1 minute summary of Compersion?
Oh, absolutely. So Compersion is a story about a couple who've been married for 15 years, and the wife decides that she wants to open up their marriage and explore polyamory. So the show follows them through that journey.
So we've all watched the show.
Yes.
We loved it. We loved how real it felt. You know, that that not just the acting and the writing and all those things, but also just how well produced it was.
And it
which-
was a very realistic portrayal of like a long-term marriage. You could tell that these people really knew each other and that they were truly surprised by this kind of opening up and this decision on her part.
Right. So I guess what we were kind of wondering is, you know, what is it that prompted you to tell this story?
So about a decade ago, I was online dating, looking for love on Match.com.
Match, really?
On Match.com.
Match.com. I love it.
Wow.
Classic.
I'm
Back in
amazed.
the old
that-
days.
Yeah, that you found a polyamorous person on Match.com.
But there was no boxes to check for polyamorous.
Right.
You're
so
right.
it was more underground. And so I met a man, and he was in a polyamorous relationship, and he wanted to date me. And it was the first time I ever heard the term polyamory. And I was like, Poly, what are you talking about?
Right.
You're out in these streets and you're married, you got a wife? And he was like, yes, she knows it was her idea.
Wow.
And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, talk to her.
That's awesome.
That's great.
So we became friends, and from that point on, I was like, this would be a very interesting story to tell.
Yeah.
Because I had never seen at that point in time a love story that involved outside partners that could be real and authentic. And it was purposeful that you had other loves. And I was like, this would be very interesting, because how do you, starting out, keep your marriage intact while you explore other romantic entanglements? And I was like, this could be a very rich story.
Absolutely.
And originally I wanted to do it for TV, and they didn't come calling. So we decided to,
you did it on your own.
I did it on my own. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, I mean, I do love the fact that you chose to tell this specific story, particularly because, what we've encountered here at Multiamory, what I've encountered, I have my own relationship coaching practice, is that this is a very relatable story. There's not a lot of people, it's actually a relative rarity for people to come to polyamory, like when they're 18 years old and first discovering adult relationships. That most, or I don't know about most people, but a lot of people come to non-monogamy when they are already in a monogamous relationship. A lot of the questions that we receive, a lot of my clients are people who are in the same situation that your characters are, where they're in a marriage or in a long-term relationship, and they're interested in opening it up, and they have to tackle all those questions that you tackle so beautifully in your web series of like, how the heck do we do this? How the heck do we do this in a way that is healthy? How the heck do we process all these crazy emotions going on? And so I have to say that, I really appreciate the realism that you lend to this process, because I think a lot of people can relate to that, of the emotions, of the jealousy, of the negotiation. My question for you is, how do you balance, kind of being true to that and portraying that realism versus just kind of making it seem like polyamory is a terrible idea because all you do is fight about it and feel jealous and talk about it all the time and no one gets what they want?
So I would say that when I decided to do this story, I want to do a family drama that was exploring polyamory. So it was never me saying, I got to do a story about polyamory and it's polyamory. I had to come through it with the characters, and I wanted to be human more than anything. And I wanted to come looking at how this couple makes this journey. And it's not going to be, for this particular couple, it's not going to be easy, because their background is very traditional. This man signed up for a monogamous relationship. This woman agreed to this monogamous relationship. And so I didn't want to do a fairy tale. I was like, I don't want to do a fairy tale. I wanted to do something that was very human, very relatable, and that these characters, in order to get to Compersion, which won't be in season 2, but to get to Compersion, that it would take work, because it's not something I think comes overnight, especially when you're used to this particular relationship paradigm. And so if there is a critique of people of Compersion, it would be there's some conflict,
There's a lot of conflict.
There's a lot of conflict.
And like,
it's not a smooth
and
journey.
the thing is, like, for me, it's like, I want, in anything you probably see me do, there's going to be some mud on you. There's going to be some scars on you. But for me, it makes that journey, once you get to the mountain top and you see the peaks and the valleys, that it was worth that struggle. Because when Josh finally comes to a realization of, maybe this isn't so bad, and why was I holding on to you as a possession, and Kina makes her peace, and it will be that much of a reward. And me as a writer, I need my characters to want something, and for things to stand in their way, and see how hard they fight for what they want.
Right.
That's awesome.
And so it's not about, like, I never, like, I think that polyamory is just as a valid way of relating as monogamy. But when I went into the show, I didn't say I want to portray polyamory in a negative light. I want to portray polyamory in a positive light. I was like, these are the characters. This one wants to do this, and the other one doesn't want to. So I really wanted to portray more of the characters and not so much polyamory, because I think if you're going in saying I'm going to portray polyamory, you're going to fail, because you can't represent all of polyamory.
For
I would
sure.
not be able to do that fairly.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
Yeah.
And as the show evolves, there's going to be other characters that are involved in different stages of their walk in polyamory, and they're going to have a different experience. But this is about this couple's experience.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think you've really set that up because I mean, I know my personal experience is like, oh God, like, oh please, like, I hope it gets better. Like, I hope they figure something out. Like,
Yeah.
you definitely help set up that investment of like, oh gosh, this is really rough. But at the same time, like, I want these people to win. You know, I want these people to figure it out. I want these people to find that happiness.
But it is just
like, yeah, I want them to find compersion.
it is just the first couple like months, or I guess 4 or 5
it's like
months.
4 months in.
And
Right.
you know, I mean, Jase and I
Our
sort of
first
had
4
a
months were
similar
a little rough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We sort of had a similar
My first 4 months
opening
were
up.
real rough.
Yeah, so I think that it is very realistic.
Yeah, there's a lot
From that
of
standpoint.
ingrained stuff that we have to unlearn.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Oh,
and
yes.
on the show, family comes up a lot too.
Yeah.
A lot of different
That adds a
characters
whole
talk
nother
about
layer.
their upbringings. You know, there's family members in it too, but more just that they talk about, well, I was raised this way, or like,
Yeah.
well, my dad wasn't around, or yours was, or, you know, just kind of how that impacts
You know, like
your
they're,
relationships.
you know, Josh's mother's very religious. You know, he grew up going to church. You know, he
Yeah.
comes from a 2-family home. You know,
Right.
we don't know much about Kina's parents. You guys will see that probably next
yeah.
season.
Ooh, nice.
But you know, they've had a very traditional leave it to beaver kind of life up until this point, where one partner is very happy with the way things are going, and Kina
Once more.
wants more, wants to be able to explore that part of yourself. And for me, I mean, I couldn't imagine my husband coming to me after 15 years, baby, so this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, putting yourself in that position, because what you're thinking, even if it's not true, that I'm not enough.
Yeah,
And how do you act out when you think you're not enough?
sure.
Right.
You know,
Of course.
your insecurities, you know, when it has maybe nothing to do with you not being enough. But, you know, especially people who watch it who are monogamous, Kina's selfish, her husband is perfect. How could you do this to him? You're ungrateful. You don't love him.
Well,
you
this
know?
is a perfect segue into our next question we had for you, which is about that. Like, what kind of fallout and criticism have you gotten for this? Just
Or
you know,
have
it's
you
like-
gotten any from
or
the
have you gotten
polyamorous
any? Yeah.
community?
A large portion of the audience that watches Compersion is Black and poly.
That's awesome.
And they have been very supportive of the series because they haven't seen anything that represents them.
there is nothing,
You know?
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's-
it's been
yeah,
like
there's nothing.
they're really excited about it. And so far, the audience that we have love the realism.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
And, you know, I know when I'm watching stuff and I want it to go a certain way, I get pissed off. And I'm like, why would you do that?
Totally.
I can't believe you did that. Why
Yeah.
couldn't you just, you know? So I get that, but it's not in a way that's saying, oh, I hate the show.
Oh no, of course.
Right.
They suck. These people are not real. But I think when you don't see yourself, sometimes we want a fairy tale version of it, and we want everything to be perfect.
Yeah.
And nothing I ever do, you will ever see that unless it's a Disney film, and
Yeah.
that's what it calls for. But they've been very supportive. Now, I've had some people who are not polyamorous make comments, you know,
The YouTube comments
Yeah.
below. I
This
did read some
hoe
of
and-
them. Yeah.
and I'm like, delete. I'm like, you
Yeah,
could,
yeah.
you know, and I totally like want people to disagree, but
Right.
don't be calling my character no hoe.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, so there's been like people who've never heard of polyamory, or who, I mean, there's some judgmental things, but most of my audience right now are, I think, a large portion of them are polyamorous and have been very supportive.
That's lovely.
Yeah. That's great. Well, and that's I think it's also important to point out the fact that, like you said, that the majority of your audience is Black and poly, and that, as far as I know, I mean, maybe you know of something else, but as far as I know, there's nothing out there. There's no other series or podcast or any sort of people doing it publicly besides Monique.
Oh, Monique, yes. You know, there's
just
other series that have online that I know a couple that have been Black, poly, and it was usually triads, two women, one man.
Right.
And that's all I've seen. And I've only learned about them because they've contacted me when they've seen Compersion.
Oh, wow.
Got
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like a movie. It's shot like a film would be.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bruce Francis Cole, my DP, who's
there you go.
absolutely amazing.
Seriously,
Nice.
really wonderful. It's a beautifully done web series in that
Thank
way.
you.
Plus, all of the actors are incredible.
Yes.
They're wonderful. And
Can I ask about that real
Yeah,
quick? Actually,
absolutely.
This wasn't on our list here of questions.
No
but
problem.
Are any of the cast, were they poly before? I'm just curious if anyone was.
I'm not allowed to divulge
Okay.
any
Okay.
names.
I get that.
But
Okay.
if
That's
but you
fine.
know, I will say, as one of my actors said, there's definitely people who are polyfluid. That was the
Okay.
term
Nice.
she made.
Yep.
Jamie says she's not. She doesn't identify as polyamorous, but she's open to it and she's learning. That's what she said in
That's
one of
lovely.
our interviews.
wow.
I almost wonder if being on the show, you would start to be like, like getting into
This
this
is
character, I
interesting.
start to
Yeah.
understand.
She said that.
Yeah?
She
That's
said that.
awesome.
She
That's
said
great.
that, the show opened her mind to something that she really hadn't given too much thought to.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's, a couple of people behind the scenes that intellectually, I think are, maybe not emotionally, but open to the idea of it. And, so yes.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome.
I mean, and then,
Awesome.
we're all,
Awesome.
we're artists, right? So, we get away with a lot of stuff that, middle
sure.
America or,
Yep.
we're all avant-garde filmmakers, actors. So, it's okay to
Yeah.
think out of the box.
Right. People expect
Yeah.
that from us.
Right.
In a
Yeah.
way
You
they
know?
don't in a lot of
Absolutely.
other places. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, you guys, so we're going to take a quick break to talk to you about our Patreon. If you are a fan of the show, if you've been listening for a while, if you get something out of our show, we would absolutely love it if you could become one of our Patreon members. So if you go to patreon.com/multiamory, that's patreon.com/multiamory, you can sign up to become one of our supporting members. And we offer all kinds of awesome perks for the people who are our patrons. For $5 a month, you can become part of our private invite-only Facebook discussion group, which has been an awesome place for people to come. They
Been
talk
so good.
about,
they're
they talk
awesome.
about, the things that they're facing in their lives. They're talking about, questions they have about their relationships, or they share funny stories that they had, or even silly pictures of them with their partners. It's turning into this really, really awesome, very supportive community. If you pledge at the $9 a month level, that you can get an invite to our monthly video discussion group. Those are much smaller. Those are usually limited to about 10 people, where we can actually all talk face to face about different topics. And again, in that arena, you can also bring up things that you're facing and kind of, get our help on it and get the help of other people on it. So yeah, it's, our Patreon community is just wonderful. I don't know what else to say about it. It's such amazing people. So if you want to be a part of that as well, go to patreon.com/multiamory.
Yes.
And now we want to talk about zippy cars and Zipcar.
So if you're someone who doesn't own a car, or maybe you do but it's in the shop or something like that, Zipcar is a great way to get a car and rent it just for the hours when you need it. You're not having to pay for a whole day. It includes gas and insurance and all of that. You don't even need to have your own insurance. It's amazing. And if you want to support our show and do that, you will also get $25 of free driving credit when you sign up at joinzipcar.com/multiamory. So check that out. Get your $25 of free driving credit. It's awesome for those times where you're like, hey, I need to get a van for an hour to go pick up a new couch or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's really great for those sorts of things. Or even just, hey, I need a car to get to this short-term job that I have, and you can just pick it up in one place and drop it off in another. It's awesome. Go check it out at joinzipcar.com/multiamory.
And now, back to our interview.
So I wanted to talk about, in other interviews you talked about that you really enjoy, you really get some fulfillment out of creating a safe space, or as you call it, creating a home space, specifically for Black women with your filmmaking. which, I mean, just sounds absolutely beautiful to me, but I would love to know more about what that means to you.
Yeah, it's home place. So basically the concept comes out of what, Black women have historically done in very violent environments, from enslavement to civil rights to present day, of how you create safe spaces, whether or not you're a slave on the plantation and this particular shack that you are in is your safe space for your family, for your, So when I'm talking about home place for women of the African diaspora, I wanted to do that in film as well. So where Black women can be fully realized beings.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful, and
Kina,
I mean, that's
Kina definitely is that on the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah,
too.
I was gonna say that exactly. That like
Yeah.
I love her character so much because she is like fully fleshed out.
Yeah.
Like she feels like a real human being. She doesn't feel like single dimension. She doesn't feel like she's just there as perfunctory. Like she feels like an actual human being. Like it feels like you have created that space.
And then to be able not to, for us not to be pigeonholed to playing certain roles or certain
Yes.
storylines as well. Like I had a movie
Yes.
with an all Black cast of nuns. Like just like being able to see
Nice.
Black women in ways you don't get to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, right. I
Definitely.
mean, and just even as a female character, I mean, Kina is interesting to me because the confidence that she has to keep sticking to what she wants and like trying to have integrity with it, even when it's real shitty, when it's coming from all sides, like that's also just really cool as a character to get to see that, to kind of have those sorts of role models that it's like she can be a role model without her life being perfect all the time.
Right, because we live in imperfections and we live in gray areas. Everything is not so, black and white. And what's interesting is the audience how they respond to Kina, because in many respects they see her as perfect and they never see her faults when she's not really acute with the truth. Where times where her character is not always 100% honest, but it's like, oh, we forgive her because she's trying,
Yeah. Well, she does kind of. I'm trying to figure out a way to say this without spoiling anything for people who haven't watched the show. She kind of does more of the like lies of omission.
Yes.
Which I think.
Yes.
I think as a film going audience, we have been taught to be more forgiving of that than actual lies.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a good point. That she's definitely not perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love her.
No, she's great.
Yeah, she's great. So something that we talked about a little bit before recording that, I just kind of want to highlight here is, for those of our listeners who haven't watched the show yet, this is a web series that is an all Black cast. And as we were saying, like, this is something that like we basically never see, like we don't have that representation in our media. We barely have representations of polyamory as it is, but usually it's all whitewashed. Usually it's the same image that the poly community often gets criticized for, which is seeming like it's just a bunch of like upper middle class educated white people. And so, I want to talk about that because like clearly, there's this underrepresentation of anyone who is not white within the poly community. I hear from a number of clients of mine who are people of color who talk about the fact that, I don't necessarily feel comfortable going to poly meetups because sometimes I'm the only non-white person there. Or I feel like I get fetishized because of my skin color, or because of my race or because of my ethnicity. And, these are things that are obviously, these are things that are part of the bigger picture, right? These are things that are endemic to communities outside of just the poly community. But I was, wondering to kind of get your take on, how do we address this? How do we, the poly community, I feel, is usually such a great community for being open-minded and embracing all walks of life and embracing all different ways that people want to do their relationships. It's a community that I would expect to naturally want to be more inclusive, and yet there's a lot of frustrated people out there. So I would just love to kind of get your take on that.
You know what? It makes me think about Hollywood.
Sure.
Hollywood should be a very inclusive place, and it should be a very
Absolutely.
diverse place, but it's not.
Yeah.
And the way you change that is by being proactive and reaching out to people who are different from you, reaching out to the communities of color, and just doing it. Because we could talk about it all day, but until you're like, you know what? Let me reach out to Black and Poly. Let me bring you over to my group. Let me, because it's segregated. Like, there's these really large polyamory groups that have 20,000 people. Most of the people are white. And then you have like Black and Poly, which is like 6,000 people.
Right.
And, I don't have that experience of being Black and Poly and isolated. So that's not my experience. But I have an experience of being a Black filmmaker and being isolated, and people talking about being inclusive, but not really being inclusive. So it's like, put our words into action, and, check our people who are fetishizing, Black Poly people,
Sure.
because that, it's you. If you're going to say you're about inclusiveness and open-mindedness, you need to be about it.
Yeah.
That's what Jackie says.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
That's what Jackie says. I'm gonna put that
You heard it here on Multiamory,
put that up on
folks.
my wall.
No, exactly.
That's what Jackie says.
It's awesome.
Just like write it in lipstick on your mirror.
That's
that'd
what
be-
Jackie
in the
says,
morning.
right?
Good.
That's what Jackie says.
Yeah.
But I think it
love
should be, because, you think about, the polyamory community should be more inclusive. Like,
Absolutely.
considering how
Yeah.
it's considered fringe or out there, it seems like it would be more,
Right.
a collective body of people
Yes.
working together.
Yeah.
Even like polyamory, married and dating, which was about a bunch of people actually in the community. It was all white people, I
Right.
believe.
It was all white people.
Yeah,
Right.
it was
Yeah.
very much not that. So
So
Yeah.
I agree, more
I mean,
content.
yeah, it is interesting too, like that there are these two, not just two, but that the groups do tend to segregate that way. And that is something that finding the way to start bringing that together, though, is the tricky part, because, because there is that thing of like that Black and Poly group. A lot of those people might be like, yeah, we could, but I kind of don't want to because I've done that before, and I got fetishized, or I was treated that way, or I just felt just uncomfortable. Like it's a tricky thing to start that.
What I've seen, like when, some of the conversations that I've seen happening is definitely like the people who are Black and Poly feel ostracized and not welcome. They go to, they say they go to meetup groups and they feel like the oddball out, and so, I think it's upon,
Educators and all of us,
to like really, it takes work. It's like really, you have to be about the work and trying to bring people into the fold, respecting the diversity, but also like, okay, we have so many things in common.
Yeah.
Right.
And let's build on what we have in common,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, something that stuck in my mind last year, actually around this time, we interviewed Dr. Eli Sheff, who's a poly researcher, and she talked about the fact that, for white people, the stakes of being out, as in being out about being poly, the stakes are much lower than it is for non-white people. Because the fact that, non-white people often operate under stereotypes. The example she gave was the idea that if you have a Latina woman who has to operate under the stereotype of like, oh, you're the fiery, passionate Latina, that if that woman comes out as being poly, like that's automatically going to get attached to her stereotype rather than to like a choice that she wants to make or just a part of who she is. And I feel like it's very much the same with Black women as well. And so, my opinion is I feel like there needs to be a sense of like a greater appreciation for that the stakes, specifically for someone who's Black and poly, the stakes to be out about that are much, much higher.
I know when I was, I was telling my family about the series that I was doing, and
good. Yeah,
that
what did
it was
they
Black.
think?
I mean, they love it. My
Great.
mother's a huge fan. My cousins are huge fans.
That's awesome.
They watch
Of
it
course.
religiously. But I remember my cousins were like, "It's a Black couple? Ain't no Black man gonna allow his Black wife to go out here and date anybody and let." I was like, no, there are Black men who are poly with their Black wives or their Black girlfriends or their Black boyfriends. I'm like, but because it's not in their sight, like we don't, it's not something that's an everyday sight. So it's like, no, there's no way there's a Black person that's going to do that. And I'm like, there's tons of Black people who are doing this. but it's just such a limited scope of what
Wow.
people's personal experiences are the only relationships they know about that would be similar to polyamory, but not is like if you're having an affair.
Right.
So those are the relationships they understand.
Yeah.
And I think, and I think for many people, and which is so strange, my show has a hard time being shared. Like it's shared in polyamorous groups, but
Totally.
people who are monogamous don't share it, and people who are polyamorous don't share it outside
Right.
of
To their
the
monogamous
group.
friends.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not, I'm like, just because you share it doesn't mean anything, you know, but
Yeah.
Right.
it's the danger of someone even thinking that you may
Yeah.
see
Be interested
relationships
in it?
differently. Yeah, that's the
Jeez.
strangest thing. Like,
My
Yeah.
goodness.
and the ideal of it is very dangerous in and of itself, which is horrible when you're doing a digital series because you want it
You
to
want to
spread like
share it. Yeah.
wildfire.
Exactly.
But it's definitely that I think a threat of being outed.
Mhm.
You know, if you're polyamorous,
Yes.
and then the threat of someone associating you with something that is just deemed so horrible, of saying I want to date, I want to be with my
Multiple people.
husband
Yeah.
and
Right.
my girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know, like it's so interesting. I had a friend of mine tell me he couldn't
Yeah.
subscribe to my network because it was like soft porn,
Oh my gosh.
Wow. That's a stretch.
and I was like,
There's
"There's nothing."
Yeah.
I was
Right.
like, "But
They have
there's
sex in the
no-
first episode
there's just-
between a man,
I'm like-
the
but you know,
husband and wife. Like, come on.
Right.
he told
We
me
don't see anything.
it would be more easier for him to subscribe if it was a show about this married couple and the wife cheating,
Yeah.
because it's
sure.
more
Yeah,
socially
no, that's
acceptable.
not surprising at all.
We've
Right.
heard
Yeah.
those
And-
things before.
And
yeah.
I was like, but I don't understand. I was like, because, you
I
know, for
know.
me, this is not,
Yeah.
it wasn't so taboo the way that I'm handling the material. It was just, it's about this couple and
Mm-hmm.
this relationship and their relationship shifting.
yeah.
You know, it was nothing for me like
Yeah.
that was wild or anywhere near soft porn. Not
Right.
Yeah.
not saying anything bad about soft
certainly
porn.
not.
It has
Yeah.
its place. But it's so interesting that just the idea of it is so threatening.
Well, people automatically associate it with like, oh, well, this is a thing that you do in the bedroom,
It's a sex thing.
and we shouldn't talk about
Right.
things that happen
Yes.
in the bedroom.
Yes.
So
Yes.
therefore, we shouldn't be watching this.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Maybe that
No, yeah.
So you
We've
had your hand up for a second there.
Yeah, sorry. No, I mean we've gotten that. Like we've had friends reach out to us and say like I love you guys and I love your show, but like I can't like your Facebook page. I
Yeah.
can't follow you on Twitter
Yeah.
because like my girlfriend sees that I did, then she's gonna freak out.
Yeah.
And of course we're like, what, like what,
Right.
what?
right. That is strange.
But it's that it's even being associated with the possibility
Yeah, jeez.
feels so dangerous to people. It's like even acknowledging it is dangerous to some people.
But you know what's interesting? They won't like your Facebook page or follow you or share it, but they will share somebody getting their head blown off in real
Seriously.
life.
Sure.
Jesus.
Like, and it's
Something
like,
horrible, yeah.
are you serious? Just the idea of just relating to someone differently,
Yeah.
that blowing someone's head off is more palpable for you than the thought of me wanting to love more than one person at the
Yeah.
same time.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a struggle. It's been a frustration of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Oh, I'd
and it's
imagine.
something that
I'd
we
imagine.
talk a lot about whenever we talk about coming out on this show, and I think even on a lesser scale, it could have to do with coming out as liking a show like Compersion or liking a podcast like ours, even if you're not poly.
Right.
Is something we say a lot is if you're someone who's in a position where you can, that you are safe to come out, where the repercussions for you might be a little awkward, but you're not gonna lose your job. You're not gonna get
Yeah.
kicked out
Yeah.
of your house,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That if you can, do it, because the more people that do that, think about these guys, who are so afraid to share something like this on their Facebook page. If they're like, oh, but my buddy whoever did that, or like, oh, my friend's uncle
Right.
posts stuff about this, like it
Strength in
becomes
numbers.
less scary because it's like, oh, I know another human did this,
Right.
like
Right.
an actual human I know, not just like an idea
And
of
the-
another person.
And the thing about Compersion, I'm not advocating anything.
That's true.
It's just
yeah.
a story about this couple and their journey to
Yeah.
this particular thing. And so it's not like you have to be polyamorous. No, you be whatever you want to be. The
Right.
show is not saying you need to be this or you need to be monogamous. However you decide to have your
Yeah.
relationship is what you decide to do. But it's it's a phenomenon that just frustrates the hell out of me.
Yeah, I
Right.
can imagine.
You know.
Well, I mean, honestly, I could talk about this for like 6 more hours. That's how I often feel towards the end of our podcast. We just have 2 last questions for you, Jackie.
I'm here.
I
I drove all the way out here to Egypt for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we are out here.
Yeah.
So the first question being, you've researched this topic and you've explored this topic so much through your work, through your characters, through your writing. From what you've learned about this, what would be your one piece of advice that you would give someone who, maybe a couple who's in the same position as, your characters, Josh and Kina? What would be your one piece of advice for people who are interested in pursuing non-monogamy?
I would say you have to be incredibly open and honest about what you're feeling emotionally. And I'm a very emotional person, so I'm thinking about if I decided to go into a polyamorous relationship, I would definitely have to be open emotionally and very honest about my insecurities and what I wanted. And because I think ego can get in the way, and I have a very ravenous heart, and I'm thinking you have to be open.
Yeah.
Just really lay everything bare and be naked in my opinion, if you're going to pursue non-ethical monogamy.
Right.
Yeah. I like that phrase, ravenous heart.
Yeah.
I might steal that one. I like it a lot.
Poetry right there.
Well, I'm a poet. I'm a writer.
There you go.
You're a great writer.
You heard it right here. That's what Jackie says.
Well done.
So the next question that we have for you, for me, is also a little bit of a selfish question because, I finished the series a few weeks ago, and it leaves us on a freaking cliffhanger at the end.
Yes, it does. And I'm hoping that cliffhanger will motivate people to go over to that IndieGoGo campaign and get me some
that's what we
money.
want to ask you about.
Exactly.
So if people want to see more of this, if they want to see more quality shows about polyamory out there, where can they support you?
They could go to our IndieGoGo campaign. So they could just Google Compersion on IndieGoGo and we will come up. Or they could go to bit.ly/Compersion2. And, for my biggest thing is if people who like the show, support the show with $10, if just the people who watched the series finale gave $10, we'd be funded.
Right. Yeah.
25, we'd be super funded.
Yeah.
But, I think a lot of times people wait for someone else to do it. And what I stress about this show is like, if it's for you, if you like it, if you enjoy it, you're going to have to support it because Compersion takes money to shoot. We did it for bare bones and we're trying to do it for bare bones again.
Right.
But we do need some resources, and because I'm not independently wealthy, I cannot finance season 2. So it's definitely small donations matter. We'll take big ones, but 10, 5, 25, 50.
Yeah.
If you go support, because we really want to bring back season 2. This is just the beginning. There's so much more we want to explore as our couple gets closer to Compersion.
Yeah.
Just so much.
That's great.
And that first episode of season 2, honey.
Man.
Yay. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
He is so hot.
Yes. We were all gushing over.
I know. We were
what's
like,
his character's name?
Colt. Yeah.
Colt.
Yeah.
Oh my
Colt,
gosh.
yeah, we all got a little bit of a crush.
Yeah,
You got a
for
Colt
sure.
crush?
Like, look at
Oh,
those muscles.
he was going to come
Colt
today.
crush.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
It's probably better he didn't. We would have been so distracted.
We'd all be like,
we're going to come back. I'm going to bring him.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. That would be
He was
awesome.
like, oh, maybe I'll come through. I was like, come on through. He's like, what are you
Yeah.
guys going to discuss? I'm like, the show and some other stuff. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We'll definitely bring him next time.
I will definitely
We can talk
bring
about
him.
like the launch of season 2 or something.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
that
could
would
do
be
that
amazing.
for the
That'd be
launch of
great.
season
Amazing.
2.
Yeah.
You guys
Sure.
could come to the release party.
Ooh, yeah.
That's
that'd
if
be-
we get funded. IndieGoGo.
Yeah. Well, all right,
Don't
guys.
worry.
Now
We'll help
I
make that happen.
have 2 selfish reasons for you to go fund this project.
We really want to make gold.
Yeah.
Oh God, you should see that. It's gonna be.
Okay, all right, and then
Oh,
also, so we can check out season 2 of the show. Thank you so much, Jackie,
Thank
for coming on the
you.
show.
I had such a
Yeah.
blast.
We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. And as always, if you guys want to write to us with any suggestions or questions or to start a conversation, you can do that to our Twitter at Multiamory or on Facebook, Multiamory, or you can write an email to us at info@multiamory.com. And of course, join the awesome discussion group, which is actually how we first found out about Compersion, by joining our Patreon and becoming part of the discussion group there. So thank you all so much, and we will see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Dan Savage from the Savage Lovecast and Savage Love, and you're listening to a Swing Set podcast at Swing Set FM.